I've never been one for conspiracy theories. Of course, there are conspiracies, but man landed on the moon, Elvis is dead, Oswald shot JFK. One conspiracy that always held water from the beginning was the Wuhan lab leak theory, and it's just been given more credibility by Dr. Alina Chan. Welcome to Counter Narrative. Harvard scientist Dr. Alina Chan has testified to the Science and Technology Committee. She states there was probably a conspiracy surrounding where COVID came from, and it will eventually come to light. Let's take a look at that now.
What probability would you put on the possibility of there having been a lab leak as the origin of COVID-19?
All right, so I think that a lab origin is more likely than a natural origin at this point. We all agree that there was a critical event at the Huanan seafood market that was a super spreader event caused by humans. There's no evidence pointing to a natural animal origin of the virus at that market.
So you say more likely than not that it was a lab leak. How confident are you that we will be able to definitively determine the origins of COVID-19 over time?
I'm very confident. We've seen from previous cover-ups as well that it just takes time, because right now it's not safe for people who know about the origin of this pandemic to come forward. So it might be 5 years from now, it might be 50 years from now. But we live in an era where there's so much data being collected and stored. Everyone has a phone with cameras, with emails. Messages were flying out of Wuhan during the early days of the pandemic. We need a credible, systematic investigation to collect all of these pieces of evidence and put them together to get a much better understanding of how this pandemic might have started.
Quick reminder, guys, please like, share and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and hit the notification button to find out when I've released a new video. Anyway, on with the show. One of the biggest indicators that it came from a lab and not a wet market was China's reluctance to allow the World Health Organization to get into the country and inspect said markets. If it was true, surely they would have wanted to have proven it. It's more plausible that they knew it wasn't true and they knew it couldn't be discovered. Therefore, they caused problems for the World Health Organization to get into the country in January.
Reveals that they had been tracking thousands of animals across China since 2017 until now, and they have found zero traces of viruses closely related to SARS-CoV-2, the virus that caused COVID-19. So there's no sign of SARS-CoV-2 in the wildlife trade except for a handful of pangolins. And we now know that there were no pangolins on sale in Wuhan in the years leading up to the pandemic. So where is the link between the virus SARS-CoV-2 and the wildlife trade? Where we are at right now is that we've searched for more than a year for an intermediate host for the animal that carried the immediate precursor of the virus before it jumped into humans. We have not found it. The current evidence is all circumstantial, and it is consistent with both a natural and a lab origin of this virus. There are precedents for both lab leaks. Even of the first SARS virus, it slipped out of lab at least 4 to 6 times, and many times were in China. So this problem of a growing number of labs around the world creating more pathogens, researching and collecting more pathogens, it's a problem for everybody. It's not just a problem for China. And we need to have a very serious conversation amongst both scientists and non-scientist stakeholders to figure out and communicate to the public how we can rebuild better, how we can make research safer and beneficial at the same time.
You can see Dr. Chan has been consistent with her claims from the beginning, up until her appearance at the Science and Technology Committee recently. One of the most frustrating parts of this has been the lack of criticism from politicians, journalists and organisations regarding how China has behaved. It's hard to believe that if this happened in the USA, for example, there would have been the same reaction. I've raised this in my video about Labour MP Richard Burgon's inability to criticise China for COVID, their human rights abuses and the treatment of Taiwan, etc. Let's not get started on the sports stars or movie stars who lick China's boots. We'll be here all day. This is something that Chan has raised also, and something that gives her more credibility in my book.
You started to see all the way back when we were all in lockdown and you were here in Cambridge.
Yeah.
Things just didn't add up to you, is that right?
Yes, or rather, some scientists and some journalists were too quick to call a lab origin hypothesis a conspiracy theory. So without any available evidence at the time in early 2020, they were already sure in their minds that there was no way this virus could have come from a lab. So to me, that was anti-scientific.
Why do you think it has made people so angry that you continue to ask these questions?
So we saw in early 2020 already, starting from even day one of the pandemic, that it was quickly politicized. So not just reporters, but even politicians and even some scientists called anyone who was asking whether this could have come from a lab. They called them racist, they called them anti-Chinese, they called them anti-science. And so these were all really extreme ways to depict just asking a question, could this have escaped from a lab by accident? Like even a virus that was collected, being worked with in the lab, accidentally infecting someone. This is a completely plausible scenario. It's happened many times. And in the US in 2019 alone, on average, there were more than 4 accidental exposures or releases of select agents. So the most dangerous of the dangerous, like viruses and toxins. So this is not some far-fetched, like imaginary hypothesis.
I find her very credible, intuitively, and the way she presents her arguments. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell. My contact info is on my page and in the description. Thanks for listening.